Across the vast skies of Africa, where the sun rises like a golden drumbeat and the night falls beneath a blanket of endless stars, the winged ones have always carried more than feathers and flight. They carried mysteries. They carried messages. To the people of Africa, birds were never just creatures of the air. They were divine messengers, sacred guardians, and cosmic symbols woven into the very fabric of creation. High above the trees, where the horizon kisses the heavens, a bird soars. Not just with wings of feathers, but with the breath of the divine. When a bird flies in Africa, it is never just flight. It is a sign, a whisper of ancestors riding the wind, a movement between worlds. Their freedom is not only physical, but spiritual. To many traditions, birds are the only beings who travel freely between the earth and the sky. And in doing so, they become bridges between humanity and the gods. When they sing, it is not only music, it is prophecy. When they circle above, it is not only instinct, it is guidance from the unseen. From the soaring falcon of Horus in ancient Kemet, whose sharp eyes watched over kings, to the Sankofa bird of the Akan, forever turning its head backward to remind us that the future cannot exist without the past. Birds have always been keepers of vision, transformation, and knowledge. The mysterious owls of the night, feared and revered. The vultures soaring on the thermals of death and rebirth, and the sacred falcons carved into temples, all reveal a truth that human eyes alone could not see. For centuries, African shamans, priests, and seers looked to the skies not just for rain or storm, but for prophecy, wisdom, and whispers from the ancestors. The rustle of wings was not merely the sound of flight, but the echo of spirit. Each feather was a scripture, each call a sacred word, each flight pattern a sign of destiny. Birds descended in dreams, called out warnings, and guided migrations, both of people and of souls. This journey will carry us through the skies of African spirituality. We will trace the presence of birds in sacred rituals, royal symbols, divination practices, and ancestral memory. These are not tales of superstition, but systems of wisdom rooted in spiritual science. To follow the wings of the cosmic birds is to listen for the messages they still carry. For in their flight, Africa's past, present, and eternal truth still unfold.
Birds in African spirituality are not simply animals of the air. They are liminal beings, existing on the thresholds of land, sky, and sometimes water. This unique position grants them a status few other creatures possess. They can perch on the earth, fly through the skies, and in some cases, dive into rivers and lakes. Because they can move so fluidly between the elements, they are seen as natural intermediaries between realms, between the human world and the divine, between the physical and the spiritual, between the known and the unseen. Their presence is never neutral. They are signs, omens, messengers, and guides, often sent by the gods, the ancestors, or the forces that shape destiny. In African cosmology, birds embody powerful symbols of freedom, vision, and prophecy. Their flight represents liberation from earthly bounds. Their ability to see from great heights is linked to clarity, foresight, and higher knowledge. Many traditions believe that the eyes of birds, sharp, penetrating, and wide-reaching, can see what human eyes cannot. As such, birds become mirrors of divine sight. Their sudden appearance, their calls, their direction of flight, all become encoded signs to be interpreted by those who know how to read them. Seers, shamans, elders, and diviners have long understood that the arrival of certain birds carries more than beauty. It carries cosmic meaning. This symbolic power is why birds are so often associated with gods, ancestors, and fate. In the Yoruba tradition, for example, birds are linked to powerful spiritual mothers, mystical beings who take avian form to watch over or intervene in the world. In other West African systems, birds are companions to deities, soaring above ritual ceremonies and delivering the presence of the divine. In Central Africa, birds are seen circling above initiation rites, blessing the moment with the presence of the ancestors. Even among the San of Southern Africa, birds in rock art symbolize soul travel, bridging the gap between waking life and trance. The belief in birds as divine messengers is not folklore. It is spiritual science passed through generations. These creatures are never random in their appearances. They are summoned by energy, drawn by events, and guided by unseen forces. Their behavior is a language, and their presence is a prophecy. When they arrive, they do so with purpose. And for those who still walk with the wisdom of the ancestors, a bird in flight is never just a bird. It is the sky speaking. It is the gods remembering. It is the eternal message carried on wings.
In the sacred cosmology of ancient Egypt, or Kemet, birds were not merely animals. They were embodiments of the divine, infused with cosmic force and spiritual significance. They appeared on tomb walls, temple carvings, and sacred papyri, not as decoration, but as essential carriers of divine essence. Among all creatures, birds were closest to the heavens, their wings brushing the skies, their eyes scanning the unseen. Through them, the gods revealed truths, protected nations, and conveyed sacred laws. In this world of gods and kings, feathers were not just symbols, they were the markings of eternity. At the heart of Kemet's bird mythology is the Bennu bird, often compared to the phoenix, yet older, and deeply African in origin. The Bennu is associated with rebirth, the sun, and creation itself. Rising each day with the sun god Ra, the Bennu was said to perch on the sacred Benben stone in Heliopolis, the spiritual center of the sun cult. From this stone, the first light of creation was believed to shine forth. The Bennu bird thus symbolized the eternal return, the cycle of life, death, and resurrection. It was not just a story of survival, it was a story of spiritual transformation. When something ended, the Bennu declared, something greater could begin. Pharaohs identified with the Bennu to claim divine renewal, especially in death, hoping to rise again in the afterlife with the dignity of light. Equally powerful was the image of the falcon, most famously associated with Horus, the sky god and divine protector of kings. Horus's falcon eyes were believed to see all things, one eye representing the sun, the other the moon. As a god of protection, kingship, and divine vision, Horus watched over rulers and guided justice. Kings were called the living Horus, identifying themselves with the falcon to legitimize their rule, as not merely political, but spiritual. On temple walls, the falcon of Horus hovers over kings in blessing. On battle standards, it flies as a symbol of victorious power. In amulets, statues, and sacred items, the falcon's wings stretch across centuries, guarding the soul with piercing sight and sky-born strength. Then there is the ibis, sacred to Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, time, and cosmic knowledge. The long curved beak of the ibis, dipping into marsh waters, symbolized the act of divine recording, the pulling of truth from the hidden places of the universe. Thoth, as scribe of the gods, recorded the fate of all beings. The ibis, walking silently through the reeds, carried this divine intellect into earthly realms.
Priests of Thoth would keep live ibises in temples, believing their presence sanctified the space with spiritual clarity and truth. The image of the ibis appeared wherever knowledge was sacred, on scrolls, tombs, and ceremonial artifacts, reminding all who saw it that divine wisdom was always near, if one knew how to seek it. Throughout Egyptian art and architecture, birds appear as divine symbols, bridging sky and earth, life and afterlife. In tombs, birds are painted in flight, guiding the soul to the other side. In hieroglyphs, bird shapes encode sound, spirit, and symbolism. The very language of Kemet was written in feathers and wings, because the ancients understood. To fly is to ascend, to speak with the voice of gods. The sacred birds of Egypt are not lost. They are etched into stone and memory, forever reminding us that the sky has always been holy, and in its winds, truth has always soared.
In the spiritual landscapes of West Africa, birds are far more than creatures of the sky. They are living symbols of divine power, prophecy, protection, and ancestral wisdom. Among the Yoruba people, birds are intimately connected with the concept of Ashe, the sacred energy that gives life to the universe. To see a bird fly is to witness Ashe in motion, a visible manifestation of power moving between the heavens and the earth. Birds are not passive. They are active participants in cosmic governance. The Osanyan staff, carried by herbalists and spiritual healers, is topped with birds to symbolize the transmission of sacred knowledge and the channeling of Ashe. Each bird represents a force capable of influencing health, fate, and spiritual balance. These are not decorative symbols. They are invocations of real spiritual authority. Central to Yoruba mystical belief is the presence of Awon Iyawa, or Our Mothers, who are believed to be powerful, mystical women with the glow to take on bird forms. These women, often unseen and revered in spiritual circles, are said to use their bird shapes to watch over the community, guide transformations, or enforce spiritual law. Their connection to birds symbolizes freedom, aerial vision, and the maternal force that sees all and protects what must be protected. To dream of birds or to see them gather in unusual ways is often interpreted as a sign that these spiritual mothers are present, watching, guiding, or even warning. The Akan people of Ghana offer another powerful symbol in the form of the Sankofa bird. This bird, whose head is turned backward while its feet move forward, holds an egg in its beak. It teaches the vital lesson that we must return to the past, retrieve what was lost, and carry its wisdom forward into the future. The egg represents knowledge, heritage, and continuity. The Sankofa bird appears in art, on buildings, in ceremonies. Everywhere the Akan wish to affirm that the past is not dead, but is always walking with us. It reminds communities to honor ancestors, correct forgotten truths, and live by the lessons that time has preserved. Among the Fon and Dahomey peoples of present-day Benin, birds are also deeply embedded in ritual life. In Vodun traditions, birds are messengers of the gods, invoked in rites of divination and spirit possession. Though many of the bird spirits are not named in modern records, their feathers, cries, and appearances are all part of coded spiritual language. Certain birds are believed to come from the heavens themselves, descending during ceremonies to signal that a deity is present. Others are kept in shrines or invoked through song and dance, their presence signaling divine approval
or warning. Birds are even believed to guide the soul during birth and death, ensuring that life transitions are carried out with cosmic alignment. In West African cosmology, birds are not background figures. They are central players in the ongoing drama between the seen and the unseen. Whether as bearers of Ashe, avatars of spiritual mothers, embodiments of ancestral wisdom, or messengers of the divine, their wings carry more than air. They carry meaning, history, and the breath of the gods themselves. In Central and Southern Africa, the symbolism of birds carries profound spiritual meaning that echoes across stone, song, and ceremony. At the heart of this symbolism stands the iconic Zimbabwe bird, a stone-carved figure found in the ancient city of Great Zimbabwe. Perched atop tall stone columns, these birds, modeled after the fish eagle or battler, are believed to have served as divine guardians, watching over the sacred city. Their gaze stretches across history, embodying the connection between rulers, ancestors, and the divine. These birds were not only symbols of authority, but mediators of cosmic order. Their presence on national flags and seals today speaks to their enduring power as protectors of the land and soul of Zimbabwe. They are more than historical artifacts. They are vessels of ancestral presence, carved into stone to remind all who see them that the divine is always near. In the spiritual worldview of the Zulu people of Southern Africa, birds serve as omens and messengers between realms. The sudden appearance of a bird, its song, or its flight pattern can be a sign from the ancestors, or a warning of spiritual imbalance. Certain birds are said to carry news from the spirit world, often appearing before major life events such as births, deaths, or important decisions. The Zulu understand these birds not as random animals, but as part of a larger spiritual communication system. Elders, diviners, and traditional healers are often trained in the meanings of specific birds, interpreting their presence with deep care. These messages are considered sacred, and ignoring them can lead to misfortune or spiritual disturbance. Among the Sand People, one of the oldest continuous cultures on the African continent, birds appear frequently in rock art, serving as soul guides and symbols of trance. These ancient paintings, hidden in caves and rock shelters across southern Africa, depict birds flying above human figures, circling over hunters, or merging with shamanic dancers. For the San, birds are not just messengers. They are part of the process of spiritual transformation. During trance dances and rituals, the shaman is believed to leave the body and travel into other realms. In these moments, birds are thought to accompany the soul, guiding it safely through the spirit world. Their presence in the rock art is a visual record of these journeys, encoding spiritual knowledge into stone for future generations. Across both Central and Southern Africa, these bird symbols are not disconnected from everyday life. They reflect cosmic laws of order, ancestry, and continuity. The Zimbabwe bird stands as a symbol of divine kingship and sacred architecture. Zulu bird omens offer personal and communal guidance, ensuring decisions are aligned with ancestral will. Sandbird imagery documents the ancient pathways of the soul, bridging the visible and invisible. These traditions are united by the belief that birds live between the worlds, serving as translators of cosmic truth. In flight, in form, and in feather, they offer reminders that the divine is not distant. It is watching, guiding, and soaring just above us, always ready to speak. In the diverse spiritual tapestries of Africa, certain birds stand out not just for their beauty or flight, but for their profound association with the mystical and the mysterious. Among these, the owl holds a place both revered and feared. Across many African cultures, owls are viewed with deep suspicion. Their nocturnal habits, haunting calls, and sudden appearances have linked them with the spiritual world, often associated with witchcraft, sorcery, and death.
To some, an owl seen near a home is a warning of illness, misfortune, or an approaching death. Yet this fear is matched by a grudging respect. In some regions, the owl is also recognized as a symbol of wisdom and secret knowledge, capable of seeing what others cannot. Its silent flight and sharp vision have made it a spiritual metaphor for hidden truths and the ability to navigate the unseen. Diviners and elders understand the owl not as evil, but as a messenger of truths we may not be ready to face. It is not the bird itself that is feared, it is the message it carries, the shadows it reveals. Equally powerful, though in a different register, is the vulture, a bird often misunderstood in both spiritual and ecological terms. In African cosmology, the vulture is the cosmic cleaner, the one who ensures the cycle of death leads to rebirth. Its role in devouring the dead is not seen as grotesque, but as sacred and necessary. By removing decay, the vulture clears space for new life. In some traditions, vultures are considered manifestations of ancestral spirits, returning to ensure the proper transition of souls. Their ability to fly high and still locate death from miles away is interpreted as a kind of spiritual perception, eyes that pierce the veil between worlds. Among the Yoruba and other West African groups, vultures are respected for their endurance and their position in the great chain of transformation. Without them, balance is broken. With them, the cycle remains whole. Then there are the ravens, crows, and blackbirds, figures of deep mystery and transformation. Often appearing in myths and folktales as tricksters, messengers, or spirit guides, these birds are symbols of liminality. They dwell in the spaces between life and death, clarity and chaos. In some traditions, they are thought to carry the voices of the dead, circling during funerals or perching near sacred sites. Their black feathers absorb light and return silence, creating an aura of depth and ancient knowledge. When they appear, they often signal a turning point, a change in fortune, a test of character, or the arrival of spiritual guidance. Their calls are interpreted like riddles, and their presence demands reflection. Together, these mysterious birds, owl, vulture, raven, and their kin, form a shadow flock in African spirituality. They represent the aspects of the divine that are not sweet or safe, but necessary and transformative. They remind us that not all messengers come with gentle songs. Some arrive with truths that demand courage. In their wings lies the power to disrupt, to reveal, and to restore. To encounter them is to brush against the edge of the unknown, and to be changed by it. Across the vast spiritual landscapes of Africa, birds are not just observed in nature or evoked in myth. They are woven directly into the rituals, divinations, and everyday practices of life. Their feathers, movements, and very essence are integrated into acts of power, celebration, and communion with the divine. Among the most visible expressions of this are the use of feathers in ritual regalia. Feathers crown the heads of priests, kings, and spiritual leaders, marking them as individuals in direct communion with higher forces. In Yoruba traditions, elaborate headpieces and masks used in egungun or Ifa ceremonies are often adorned with feathers, symbols of flight, ancestral guidance, and spiritual ascension. These are not mere decorations. Each feather carries meaning. The color, origin, and placement are all intentional, reflecting specific energies, deities, or ancestral connections. When a spiritual leader wears feathers, they signal not only their status, but also their alignment with the cosmic and ancestral realms. In many African cultures, bird dances are essential features of festivals and rites of passage. These dances mimic the movements of birds, fluttering hands, extended arms, head nods, and spiraling footwork that imitate flight and bird-like grace.
During puberty rites, coronations, or seasonal festivals, these dances are performed not as entertainment, but as spiritual reenactments of divine presence. The dancers may represent specific birds tied to particular deities or spirits, becoming temporary vessels for their energy. For instance, in some communities, women perform dances that invoke the spirit of mystical bird mothers, honoring fertility and the sacred power of creation. Among others, young boys may mimic hawks or vultures during their initiation into manhood, signaling their transformation from innocence to spiritual awareness. These dances are not learned performances. They are inherited rhythms, passed down by generations who understood that the body, like the bird, can become a channel of prayer and revelation. The role of birds also extends into sacrificial rituals, a practice often misunderstood outside the spiritual context. In many African religious systems, birds, especially chickens, doves, and guinea fowl, are used in ceremonies to communicate directly with the gods or ancestors. These sacrifices are not random acts of violence, but are deeply sacred exchanges, offerings that open portals between the visible and invisible. The blood of a bird is believed to carry prayer, seal covenants, or appease divine forces. Before sacrifices, diviners or priests often read the signs, whether through the behavior of the bird, the direction of its fall, or the way its feathers ruffle, to interpret the spiritual response. These moments are heavy with meaning. A well-received sacrifice can bless a family, heal a sick child, or protect a village from misfortune. A rejected offering signals the need for repentance, correction, or further guidance. In everyday life, birds remain ever-present symbols of divine rhythm. Their morning calls may mark the beginning of sacred rituals. Their feathers may be tied into bundles and hidden in walls or worn around the neck as talismans. Their movement across the sky is observed with the same reverence as scripture. In African spirituality, to watch a bird is to witness a fragment of the divine in flight. And through rituals, dances, and offerings, people return the gesture, lifting their own spirits to meet the sky. In the spiritual traditions of Africa, birds are more than creatures of beauty and song. They are instruments of prophecy and bearers of destiny. Their flight, their call, their sudden appearance in moments of tension or transition are all watched closely by those who understand their meaning. Across many cultures, bird flight patterns are used in divination, their paths interpreted as messages from the gods or the ancestors. A bird flying from left to right, hovering over a gathering, or landing near a shrine might signal a spiritual confirmation, or a warning to reconsider. Diviners study these patterns not with superstition, but with a trained, spiritual sensitivity developed over generations. These signs become part of the sacred dialogue between the natural world and the human soul, a language of wings and wind that only the attuned can read. Prophets and seers often draw inspiration from birds' calls and behavior. The cry of a specific bird at dawn might be interpreted as a call to ritual, a spiritual wake-up for a community that has grown complacent. In other cases, a bird's song may carry a tone or rhythm that mirrors a hidden truth, echoing a prophecy that has not yet been fulfilled. In shrines and forests, seers sit in silence, listening, not just with their ears, but with their spirits, for the messages carried by birdsong. These moments are treated with deep reverence. The bird becomes the mouthpiece of the divine, a living scripture written in sound and movement. Even in matters of war and leadership, birds have played pivotal roles. African kings and priests relied on bird omens before making major decisions. A hawk circling above the palace at the break of day might be read as a sign of impending victory, while a bird refusing to take flight during a royal procession could be taken as an ill omen. These signs were not ignored. They were consulted alongside other divinatory methods, forming a spiritual compass for rulers navigating the complexities of power, loyalty, and fate. Before battles, commanders sought the presence or absence of certain birds as confirmation of divine support. In some traditions, a bird feather placed in a warrior's headdress symbolized the guidance of ancestral spirits in the battle to come. In this prophetic role, birds hold a sacred responsibility. They are the watchers between worlds, offering glimpses into what is to come. Their wings do not just beat the air, they stir the currents of destiny. And for those who listen closely, they still whisper the future. From the deserts of Egypt to the forests of the Congo, from the ancestral courts of the Yoruba to the ancient stone cities of Zimbabwe, birds have always held a sacred place in African spirituality. They are not simply part of the natural world. They are cosmic bridges, gliding between the heavens and the earth, between gods and mortals, between the past and the possible future. Their flight is prayer, their song is prophecy, and their feathers carry the fingerprints of spirit. In every tradition we've explored, birds serve as divine intermediaries, messengers, guardians, and watchers who remind humanity of its place within the cosmic order. Throughout this journey, we've seen how birds symbolize wisdom, as in the Sankofa bird urging us to learn from the past. We've seen rebirth in the Bennu of Egypt rising with the sun. We've seen guidance in the vulture's sacred role as ancestral cleaner of the path between worlds. And we've seen protection in the feathers worn by kings and spiritual leaders, in the omens read by prophets and seers, and in the rituals where birds offer their lives to link human hearts with divine will. The stories of owls, falcons, ibises, and mystical birds that defy classification all echo the same truth. The divine is not out of reach. It is flying above us, beside us, within us. Birds appear in sacred art, in ritual dances, in divination practices, and in the dreams of those called to listen. They speak the language of spirit, not in words, but in movement, in flight, in rhythm. They are the living texts of African spiritual knowledge, unwritten but deeply remembered. When birds rise into the sky, it is not an ordinary moment. It is an invocation. It is the ancestors whispering. It is the gods stirring the winds. In their wings, the story of Africa continues to be told. Not in silence, but in sacred motion. The sky, dear viewer, is never empty. When birds soar, the ancestors speak. If you've felt something stir in your spirit during this journey, then carry it forward. Honor it. Speak of it. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Africosmos 1 for more journeys into the sacred heart of Africa's spiritual traditions. Thank you for watching, for remembering, and for listening. May the wings of wisdom guide you always.